You said in one of the slides there that the green zone would be enhanced by this. I'm wondering how you can explain how enhancement occurs when you have a lower threshold of a vote to be able to take areas out of the green zone, namely from what used to be 100% to two-thirds, and in areas adjacent to the growth boundary, 50% plus one, and within the areas of the what is it called, the urban containment boundary, be converted to industrial with 50% plus one. So how does this enhance the green zone? Well,
first off, I think that the first enhancement was the clarification and distinction between what was formerly sort of an amorphous green zone into agriculture, recreation, conservation, and rural, which kind of better recognizes the distinct features within the green zone. That's sort of point one. Point two is that the existing amendment process is a two-thirds weighted vote of the board for amendment of the green zone. That was provided.
That was stipulated by the provincial government.
Correct.
But our plan at the region required 100%. So this is basically then exceeding in this plan to the provincial government's two-thirds vote.
Carrying it forward.
Carrying it forward. I'd say exceeding to it, okay. But how does that enhance the green zone?
The green zone is now more clear in the distinction between the designations. It is clear with respect to the Agricultural Land Commission's purview over any removals. And the boundary that you described in terms of those changes is providing the flexibility that has in many cases confounded the last plan, in that small boundary adjustments where they're trying to introduce small changes have not been able to be made in the past. That is not going to materially affect the agricultural capacity or the environmental features of the green zone. Those will be supported by the board. So I guess.
Well, I mean, that's not the history. In fact, the board has voted in Maple Ridge to take a working farm out of the green zone. So I don't understand how this enhances it by exceeding to the two-thirds. And I guess when you have designated in this strategy as general urban 229 hectares in Richmond, Aldergrove, and Abbotsford, and when you have the whole forested area in West Vancouver now put into play, and when you have large areas in Langley put into play, I don't understand how this enhances the green zone. I think it, quite frankly, puts the green zone at risk.
Maybe I could ask for a little bit more clarification on what the risks that you see are.
Well, I think the risks are a lower threshold for removal and putting areas in this strategy under general urban that are fundamentally currently now agricultural.
I think I'm going to
I might suggest that Mr. Marco may wish to respond to the question as well.
Sure, that'd be great.
Thank you, Councillor Cadman. The board asked for a more flexible amendment process because the way that the Liberal Region Strategic Plan was going, it was a document frozen in time and it couldn't respond to opportunities.
Which had protected the green zone.
To a certain extent, but nothing was changing, nothing was coming in, nothing was coming out. It didn't look like the way to go in the long term, especially as we go to the next out to 2040 and yet another 1 million people in the region. It's going to be a lot more pressure on conserving the conservation and recreation and agricultural areas. So a few elements. So first of all, the board was fine with the two-thirds weighted vote, which is still a two-thirds weighted vote in the public hearing, which still is a considerable process and more than any other council when it comes to a vote. So it's not insignificant having that bar at two-thirds. And then the other ways.
But it's lower than it was.
It's lower than the original.
Cadman, could you just let Mr. Marco finish her answer, and then we can have another question?
But it's accepted as the board as a practical way, a practical implementation tool going forward with the new growth strategy. And you'll probably remember in the early years of actually trying to move forward with the growth strategy, one of the first things the board wanted to do before they could actually deal with content was to have a more flexible amendment process. So having decided on that two-thirds of weighted vote and the public hearing, then how does the new growth strategy actually help preserve the conservation, recreation, and agriculture areas? There's a few different ways. The rural areas is really significant. There was no rural in the last plan, so we've actually taken about 8,000 hectares that was urban in the LRSP and made it rural. And so that makes the lands, the agricultural lands and the con-rec lands adjacent to that rural area a lot more stable, a lot less friction with potential urban right against the agriculture and conservation and recreation. So that's a really important improvement over the last plan. Another important improvement, I think, when you look at the big picture, is that, as you know, there are policies to help stabilize the industrial land base. And industrial land is one of those big threats to agricultural land in the region. If you can't find enough room for industrial, they'll be trying to get land out of the agricultural land reserve. So I think those two policies together actually help reinforce the values in the region. And right through all the participation, still the same as with the LRSP and with the regional plans that came before that, very strong conservation values in the region and strong commitment to continue to protect them.
Did you get?
It was my time, so.
Well, I did tell you could have another question after if you held your questions during her answer.
Sure. So you also indicate here that there will be, well, it indicates that there will be certain administrative roles that will be assumed by the region as a result of this strategy. Could you tell us what those are going to cost the taxpayers of the region?
I don't see any significant cost. As you know, with this new, well, it was since 2007 when the Order in Council came from the provincial government on the new amendment process, and we have had two instances. In fact, it was in Maple Ridge, there were 6 different properties. 5 of them, the very minor properties of the board voted for, one they voted against. So there was that instance plus a property in Tsawwassen, and we process them. I don't think, there maybe be 1 or 2 a year going forward. We don't anticipate any administrative costs. We haven't got budgeted for any more staff, for example. We do anticipate large savings in the long term because of infrastructure provision. If we keep to the urban containment, we keep to the transit-oriented region, huge dividends in terms of transportation provision and utility provision will be had for the region in the long term.
Okay, thank you.